Hi friends, welcome back to The Intuitive Truth. As always, this is a collective reading, so take what feels right for you and leave anything that doesn't. Not every detail will apply to everyone, and that's completely okay. The most important thing here is trusting your own intuition. If something resonates, it's because a part of you already recognizes it. And if something doesn't feel aligned, don't try to force it to fit. And if you feel called to, go ahead and like and subscribe. It really helps connect your energy to future readings, and it allows these messages to continue reaching you when you need them most. All right, let's get into this. So the astro dice for this reading came out as Venus in Gemini in the 12th house, and this is one of those energies that doesn't show itself right away. This is layered, subtle, and honestly, a little confusing at first. Because Venus brings attraction, connection, curiosity. Gemini brings duality, mixed signals, two sides to everything, and the 12th house hides it. So this is the kind of situation where everything might have looked fine on the surface. Conversations felt normal, interactions felt light. But underneath it, something didn't fully sit right. You know that feeling where you can't explain it, but something just feels slightly off? Like you're picking up on something, but you don't have proof yet? That's exactly this energy. And looking at this spread, the first thing that really comes through is that someone doesn't just admire what's here, they want it. And there's a difference between someone being inspired by you and someone quietly comparing themselves to you, because this feels like someone who has been watching, observing, maybe even studying in a subtle way, trying to understand what makes something work so they can replicate it or step into it themselves. And when that energy isn't grounded, it starts to feel a little forced, a little unnatural, like something isn't flowing the way it should. And that's usually when you start feeling that internal hesitation, like something feels a little too calculated or a little too perfectly placed. There's also a really strong mask here. Someone showed up in a way that felt genuine, maybe supportive, maybe curious, maybe even someone you felt comfortable around. But underneath that, there's another layer. And this is the part where a lot of people start second-guessing themselves, because it's not obvious, it's not loud, it's subtle. It's the kind of thing where later on you think back and go, wait, that actually didn't feel right at the time. And the guidance here is not to overanalyze every detail or try to prove anything to yourself or anyone else. It's to trust that first feeling, that quiet moment where something didn't fully land, because that's usually the most honest signal. There's also something about how this connection started. This doesn't feel random. It feels like someone intentionally created access, like they found a way into your space, your energy, your environment. Not in an obvious way, but in a way that felt natural enough at the time. And at the same time, there's information being held back. Things that are known but not said, intentions that are there but not expressed, and that's where that 12th house energy really comes in, because it keeps everything just slightly out of reach, which is why it can feel confusing without being obvious. But what's happening now is a shift. Things are starting to come into focus, not because someone is explaining it, but because your awareness is catching up to what was already there. And that's where the power is. Because once you see something clearly, even if it's subtle, you can't really go back to not seeing it. And that double life energy just confirms it fully. This is someone who operates in two ways. One version that's shown and another that's kept hidden. And it doesn't mean everything about them is fake, but it does mean not everything is being presented honestly. And the only way something like that loses its influence is through detachment, not reacting, not confronting immediately, not trying to force clarity out of it, just stepping back and letting everything reveal itself naturally, because it always does. So overall, this feels like a hidden dynamic that is slowly coming to the surface. And the real shift here isn't in figuring everything out piece by piece. It's in trusting what's already been felt, because that's where the truth has been the whole time. All right, so getting into the tarot, this is where everything underneath becomes a lot more clear. Starting with that energy of someone wanting what's here and not being who they pretended to be, the High Priestess with the Wheel of Fortune immediately shows that this is not random. There's something about what's here that carries weight, something tied to purpose, timing, something that was meant for you. And sometimes that kind of energy attracts attention. Not always from people who understand it, but from people who recognize that it's significant. And then the Page of Pentacles with the Devil really shifts the tone, because this is someone who approaches in a way that looks harmless, curious, maybe even supportive. But underneath that, there's attachment, there's fixation. This is the kind of energy where someone might ask questions, show interest, offer small gestures, but it doesn't feel neutral. It feels like they're trying to get closer to something, access something, understand something in a way that goes beyond normal curiosity. And that's why it starts to feel heavy, even if it looks light. Then looking at the initiator energy, judgment reversed with the Six of Pentacles is very telling. This is someone who either already gave something or is planning to, a gift, a favor, some kind of exchange. But it's not just generosity. There's something attached to it. And you know that feeling when someone gives you something and it just doesn't feel clean, like there's an expectation underneath it, even if they don't say it out loud. That's this. And that's why awareness here is really important, because the advice isn't coming in aggressively, it's coming in clearly. The Page of Swords with the Emperor reversed is very much about watching, observing, and not reacting too quickly. Because this Emperor reversed energy is someone who wants control, someone who tries to influence things without being direct. And the more you observe, the more obvious it becomes. And then the Hermit with the Eight of Swords just brings it back to you. Because the mind will try to overthink this, go back and forth, question whether it's real or not, but the clarity is already there. It's just quiet. And the more you trust it, the less confusing everything becomes. So this whole situation really comes down to recognizing that someone is drawn to something deeper here, but they're approaching it from a place that isn't aligned. And that's why it feels off. The guidance is simple, but it requires trust. Watch. Don't engage too quickly. Don't accept what doesn't feel right. And most importantly, trust what you already know, because that's what shifts everything. So just take a moment and really sit with that, because this isn't about fear and it's not about assuming the worst. It's about awareness, about noticing what's already been shown, even if it was subtle, and trusting that you don't need everything spelled out to understand what's real. Because most of the time, you felt it before you could explain it, and that's your strength. Not overreacting, not jumping to conclusions, but quietly seeing what's there and moving accordingly. And the more you trust that, the less anything outside of you can throw you off. So if this resonated, go ahead and like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow, and it helps these messages continue to find you when you need them. And more than anything, stay connected to that inner knowing. That's what's guiding you through all of this.